Hi teachers. Today, 3 big myths that will stymie your job search. Don't fall for them. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to Teach No More, where I help teachers leave the teaching profession and get into a career that respects the work-life balance. My name is Sean, and I'm a professional coach who specializes in helping teachers stop teaching and start living. Today, I'm going to be talking about 3 big myths of the job search. And these are particularly relevant for teachers, and they're 3 myths that I fell into and thought a lot about when I was going through my job search and leaving the profession. And I want to get into those today so that you don't fall into the same mistakes that I did, and you don't waste time thinking about them, and you can move on to more productive matters. So the first big myth that's out there is the amount of time that it takes to find a job. I think this is particularly true for teachers. A lot of times teachers, what you will end up doing is sometime around this time of year. Right now when I'm making this video, it's the end of February. It's the last week of February. So right around end of February into March, that's typically when the contracts begin to be renewed for the next season, and you have to declare your intent, right? Sometimes that carries over into April, but it's typically around this time. And what a lot of teachers will do is they will declare, yes, I'm coming back, or no, I'm not coming back. And this is about the time that you start your job search for next school year. So at the longest period that you're going to be looking for a job or thinking about looking for that job is probably between March and at the very latest August, right? So if we do some quick math, April, May, June, July, August, that's about 5 months of time. And again, that's the longest on the outside. Typically, you're probably thinking, well, I'll probably find a job around the middle of the summer, June or July. So you're actually thinking about a time frame less than that. And if you do some research about, well, how long does it take to find a job, you might encounter similar numbers, 3 months, 4 months, something in there. A lot of that is dependent on how is the economy doing, how is the job market doing, and a lot of it is also speaking to when you are moving laterally. So for example, when you are moving from one school to another, or maybe you're an accountant and you're moving from one company to another company, or doing something like that. So when you're leaving teaching and you're trying to move into another profession, it's going to take you longer. And I think that you should double that time and expect to take about 6 months at the earliest amount of time. It might take up to a year. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous that it might take up to a year. And I'm not saying it will take a year, but I think that it's prudent to plan for a year. So if you think it's going to take a year, you can start to plan your actions based on that expectation. And that's going to help you move forward and plan out when you're going to be transitioning. The second biggest myth is that a resume is really important. And this myth is super widespread. It is everywhere. If you look around how to find a job, the job search, what are the most important things to do for the job search, resume is almost always number 1 or number 2. I completely disagree with this. In general, what you will find is that there's really 3 tiers of resume. And it's a bell-shaped curve. So on the farthest extreme of the best resumes from people who are professionals or absolute masters in visual design or visual communication or visual marketing or anything like that, where they just know exactly the fonts to pick out, exactly the layout that attracts the human eye the best. Okay, those resumes are going to have great success, no doubt about it. On the other end of the spectrum, resumes that are just a dumpster fire, right? Those resumes are going to be thrown in the trash fairly quickly. My guess is that you don't fall into either one of those 2 extremes. If you fall into the category of the expert master visual marketer, then go do your thing because it's going to be great. If you fall into that category of your resume is just a hot piece of trash, it's pretty easy to fix, actually. It's really not that hard to fix. A few hours of just research and work, you probably get it up to an okay resume. So that middle chunk is really where most resumes fall. And a mediocre resume is about as effective as a good resume. The important thing about a resume is not necessarily what keywords you're using or how those are structured, or did you use the right phraseology. Yes, that stuff can help further on down the line, possibly, maybe, but that's where that trick is. Possibly, maybe. So while most places would have you spending hours upon hours upon hours tweaking your resume for a possibly or a maybe or a fix that's going to provide you a 1% increase of landing an interview, I don't think that's worth your time. I think a resume that's good enough is good enough. If your resume is good enough, move on to other things. Fix up your interview skills. Fix up how you communicate. So resumes are another big myth that's going to sidetrack your career search and have you spending a lot of time on things that just don't matter. The third myth is that you need certain skill sets to land a job or a certain job. This is absolutely not true. Now, again, just like resume, there's some exceptions here, okay? No one's gonna hire you as a vice president of marketing if you've never done a marketing thing in your life. You don't even know what marketing is, okay? No one's gonna hire you for a graphic design job if you don't even know what Photoshop is. Yes, those things exist, absolutely. But take me, for example. So the role that I have right now is very heavily dependent on Excel usage and using different formulas and pivot tables and a whole bunch of different things in Excel. I do a lot of Excel work, okay? When I started this job, I didn't know anything about Excel. I mean, I really didn't know anything at all about Excel other than it had cells and you could put numbers in the cells. It's pretty much the extent of my knowledge of Excel. And they knew that going in. I was perfectly upfront about it. I was honest about it. And I remember in my interview, the manager even said, don't worry about that. We can always teach those things. And that's generally the attitude of most employers. We can teach you the hard skills. What we can't teach you are the soft skills. Can you get along with people? Can you work as a team? Do you have problem-solving skills? Do you have critical thinking skills, right? Can you adjust to different situations on the fly? You're a teacher. Those things I just listed, my guess is that you're sitting there going, yep, I can do that, yep. Those are the skills that employer wants. They can teach you the skills. So don't be afraid to apply to positions or look into positions or contact people about positions if you don't necessarily meet the skill set. If you have even a small bit of that skill set, your ability to communicate that I can learn this skill quickly and effectively and I can be an effective employee is much more important than being able to tell the employer, well, I've done that exact little thing for 5 years. So those are 3 big myths that exist out there in the landscape of trying to find a job. Time, double the time that you think it's going to take you, just to be safe. Resume, get a resume that's good enough and move on to different steps. You can always tweak it later on. And skills. Don't be afraid to apply to those jobs if you don't necessarily have the skill set. All right, that's what I have for you today. If you enjoy this or you found this useful, down in the description, I have a link to my free 8-page guide, and it is a roadmap that is going to move you from teaching into that new career. So go ahead and click that link and grab that free download, and I will see you on the next video.